high school swimming has been very, very strong, and so has Nebraska high school gymnastics. Let's go now to the Bob Devaney Center for more gymnastics with Jim Miller and Francis Allen.
She's from
Thank you, Bob, and we're back with boys gymnastics coverage from the Bob Devaney Sports Center, and we're headed for the vaults.
Here goes Ruben Sabayo. This is called a Sukahara. What that is a round off and then you do a back flip before you hit the floor. Very difficult vault. He executed pretty darn well. It's named after a Japanese gymnast. Now, the way these vaults or skills get their names, let's say a gymnast invents a skill, like this particular one called a Sukahara. They named it after the Japanese gymnast, Sukahara. So when the gymnasts say that's a Sukahara, that's how those things got their names.
Are they just warming up a little bit now here, Francis? Or
no, that is the competition. That was the actual competition. And Shani DeGrazia, I believe, is getting ready to vault, and he's going to do a handspring front flip, or what we call a double front in vaulting.
Now, what's the key here? Because as we were talking about yesterday, this is quite an effort, because you have to run full tilt, you have to hit this board just right, you have to hit the vault just right and come down just right.
He got his nod from the judge. Let's see what he's going to do here. Now, what we're looking for is maximum speed when you hit the board, and then repulsion and a double front somersault. Oops, he kicked out a little bit early.
He came close, though.
Now, a lot of that can be because he's not used to the mats, or he hasn't warmed up a whole lot in this area. And again, it could have just been a mistake. It looked like to me that was a very good repulsion, but he just missed the landing. And that's one of those things that just takes a lot of practice. It's a blind landing. In other words, you're landing with your back to the mat, and the double front somersault is the hardest of all of them to land. Here we are on the parallel bars. Again, we talked a little bit earlier that many of these skills, they'll be advancing next year, that you see them at a low level, they'll be up at a lot higher. There was a new rendition of the dismount, too. That was another half twist added to a dismount that I haven't seen.
We're getting set now to move to the pommel horse.
Vaulting, this is the open division. This is Brandon Hall. Brandon Hall is a former gymnast at the University of Nebraska, now in law school. Oh, that was a very nice handspring with a full twist. That's a little bit different than the other two vaults we saw. That vault was a straight handspring, and then there was a full revolution from left to right called a handspring full twist.
We're back at the floor exercise mat of the boys gymnastics competition, and Francis, we're watching.
This is Hugh Law, and he's preparing here for his dismount. That's a pretty nice dismount. Hugh's one of those kids that has a lot of air sense, knows where the ground is, knows where his feet are, knows how to get those two together at the right time and land standing up. That was a pretty nice floor routine by Hugh Law.
He seems to be very happy with it. We're at the rings now and just finishing the competition over there. And that, I believe, was Damon Haybrock.
From Norfolk, Nebraska. That's his coach sitting there next to him.
Now we're over the parallel bars.
This next parallel bar routine is going to be a good one. This is Brandon Hall, and he competed for the University of Nebraska as a collegiate gymnast, and he's now just completed his first year in law school, and does some pretty unique things on parallel bars. He was in 2 NCAA gymnastics championships for Nebraska, and I believe his senior year he scored a 9.6 on the parallel bars, which is a pretty nice score.
Now, we're used to seeing gymnasts put the chalk, the powder on their hands. Why on his biceps?
I suppose he's going to do what's called a Straley. He's going to swing on his arms and pop up to a handstand. Here he's ready to go. He does some pretty unique things here on the parallel bars. Brandon Hall does a side mount, a glide side mount. There's a glide side mount up to a handstand, it's called. Notice here the body line we talked about a little bit earlier. Oh, that was a nice front somersault. What we're looking for now is the poise, the toe point, which you're seeing here. Here's a new skill that Brandon added to his parallel bar routine, which is quite unique. It's a plunge facing outward, and he'll push it up to a handstand. That's what those little 12-year-olds don't have, is all that strength and power to burn that Brandon has. That's a pretty darn nice routine.
That was.
We could have used that last year. Brandon's got to be pretty happy with that. He spent a little time getting in shape for the meet and is excited about the Husker State Games. It's one of those avenues where a gymnast that's out of competition will have a chance to compete. On the horizontal bar, this is one of the Sokol boys. There's Phil Cahoy under the bar, and you can see he's working hard, making sure that his gymnast gets through the routine. Now he's moving out. The kid's preparing for his dismount here, and you can tell that Philip's all ready for it. Here we go. Now it's a flyaway somersault, and he was ready there to protect the kid if he were to over-rotate that. Supposedly, that's what we pay the coaches for in this kind of meet. They're supposed to be out there protecting the gymnasts and making sure that they have a safe performance.
Back to the floor exercise now.
That was an aerial cartwheel. This is Brooks Law, Hugh's older brother. And in the floor exercise, the gymnast has to exhibit a scale and a handstand, and this is what's called the scale. He did a Y scale, it's called. Here he's preparing for his dismount, round off back handspring, and a tuck back somersault to a pretty nice landing. You can see again the gymnast try to get back to that erect position in front of the judge to maximize their score. His teammates are pretty happy about that. That's his little brother there, Aaron Cotter, and Jason Christie congratulating him. He's got to be pretty happy about his performance.
Keep in mind, as we've mentioned many, many times, that they're all ages competing here, and at varying degrees in their careers. Now we go back to the parallel bars, and this, I believe, is Kylan Rolls?
Yes, Kylan Rolls. He's from the 13th and Martha Sokol Hall in Omaha. Phil Cahoy's his coach. He also competes in the high school system in Omaha and does a very fine job. Does a press handstand. Now on the parallel bars, the gymnast must hold a handstand. He's already fulfilled that requirement pretty easily. The gymnast must turn around. He must do something on top of the bars and beneath the bars, which he's already done. The gymnast has to do a mount and a dismount of some difficulty. Here he's preparing for his dismount. Oops, I'm sorry, that's a Stutz front uprise. Here he's getting ready for the dismount. And Phil Cahoy stepping in there to help him out to make sure that he... Oh, it's a backflip with a full twist. Very nice. It must be his first or second time that he's used that particular dismount. There, he did a backflip in the air and then a full twist before he made contact with the mat. Of course, he saw the coach up there nice and close to make sure that he was okay. On the floor exercise, this is Ryan McEwen preparing again for his scale we talked about earlier. It's a little bit different type of Y scale. This one, the body's been over, it's called a side scale. Basically the same thing. The Y scale, the body is more erect. Here he's preparing for the dismount. Round off back handspring and a pretty nice layout back somersault. Notice that he had a pretty good landing, or what they call a nice stick on the landing.
Ryan McEwen competing in the boys gymnastics, the Cornhusker State Games.
This is Dennis Shampoo. A 17-year-old, attends Northeast High School, has competed in many, many state competitions, regional and national competitions. He was sprained his ankle pretty severely this last year, had a, it's called a subluxation, where the ankle rolls in and out, and he's still wearing a supportive brace on his ankle. You won't see him do a lot of floor and vaulting right now. Dennis is a Class 1 gymnast. That's the level just before the elites, or the level just before the Olympic caliber gymnast. Now that's pretty unique. Bart Connor originated that skill on parallel bars, where they hold a straddle L seat on one bar, did a press to a handstand. That trick was called a Stutz and a Straley. It's having a little difficulty here, but it's doing a pretty good job. That's a nice strength part, which you won't see those younger guys doing. We talked about that earlier. these older gymnasts, I remember this one's 17 years old, as these 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds get older, their strength is going to come to them. They're going to be as strong as Dennis is someday. That was a nice layout with a half turn. Then a shampoo.
Well, Francis, it's been nice working with you again.
Thank you. It's always enjoyable to be back and to be able to air gymnastics and show Nebraska really what we do have here in our total state in gymnastics. I think you're going to see some Olympic gymnasts out of this Cornhusker State Games.
Now, it's always interesting to see if these names come back in the years to come to go on to bigger and better things. Well, we hope you enjoyed the girls yesterday and the boys gymnastics coverage today here at the 2nd annual Cornhusker State Games. And that's it from the boys gymnastics competition. Bob, back to you.
Thank you, Jim Miller and Francis Allen. Again, a very nice job by both of you gentlemen. And like you say, we'll look forward to seeing these same kids maybe on the Nebraska collegiate team, and maybe, who knows, a future Olympian might come out of these Cornhusker State Games. Take a look at some results.